Hi guys, how are you guys going? I hope you guys are all well. Welcome to the review of Wimbledon 2022 and my GOAT debate video. So, what I want to do today is I want to just review Wimbledon, right? I'll mostly just talk about the final because I've talked about everything else, and then the GOAT debate, what that means for tennis at large, right? Um, so Novak Djokovic, what he did was he played against Nick Kyrgios, and he's won this match in 4 sets. Um, the score's not in front of me at the moment, but I know the fourth set was 7-6. Kyrgios wins the first set, Djokovic the second and third, and then gets the fourth set 7-6. I felt like in the first set, Kyrgios came out and played very well. He served huge to the point where even Djokovic can't get the ball back. He decided to attack Novak's second serve and just go for it and hammer it. And that was good. That was very good. And then so that's the game you want. You want, he's attacking, he's shortening the points, he's overpowering Novak in the rallies. He's going after Novak's second serve, hitting winners, controlling the point from there. Novak's really worried about the second serve return in Kyrgios, so he's having to go for more on his second serve and then hitting double faults. And then on his own, then he's able to even do reasonably well in the long rallies. And then on his own serve, he's just able to get 3 points. And then if it comes back as a short ball, he finishes. He gets the first set. Well, from then on, we saw what I talked about in the preview. Novak would get the ball back deep the rest of the match on the return, force Kyrgios into long rallies, and then just out rally him, where he's actually got Kyrgios in a long rally and he's moving Kyrgios around. He's got him off balance. So one, Kyrgios has to be in a long rally, and two, he doesn't have that time to just set up and hammer the ball. He's moved around in these long rallies where he's off balance. So one, Kyrgios isn't good at long rallies. Two, he's not good with movement. So Djokovic just got him in these used the return deep to force him into the long rally, and just had these long rallies where he's moving Kyrgios around, beating with consistency defense, and exposing Kyrgios's lack of speed and defense, and exposing the fact that Kyrgios needs to stand in the middle to hammer the ball on the run. He can't really do much. And Djokovic return is now saying, now I've got you in a 50-50 rally, and clearly the better player in the longer rallies. So you're asking Kyrgios to win these long rallies just to hold serve, and it's just too much pressure. He may do it once or twice, but it's hard to keep coming up with it. But also, in addition to what Djokovic did there in the match, Kyrgios dropped his level dramatically, even outside of Djokovic of improvements. He made a whole lot of errors. He got all angry at himself, umpires, fans. I think he was sort of nervous, like I'm close to winning a Grand Slam. I'm up a set in a Grand Slam final. So he just basically collapsed, made a whole bunch of errors. And against these big sort of hitters where they rely on their serve and they can't really be in a rally with Djokovic, what we see is people like a Rainic or an Isner or Pelka. I don't know if he's played a Pelka, but these sort of style players um, who rely on their serve but can't do much. Djokovic's return is good enough to get the balls back that they don't usually see, and then force them into a rally. And then they're asked to win a rally against Djokovic to hold serve, which they can't do. And then Djokovic just move the big guys around, and they're very poor when they're moved around in long rallies and breaks them. And that's what happened here. Typical. And then these big hitters, once the balls are coming back deep and they have to win a 50-50 rally, sometimes they're moved around and out rallied by Djokovic, or other times they just say, I can't rally for him. I'm just going to go for the ball with a lot of power near the line and make a whole bunch of errors. So you saw both. You saw Djokovic moving him around, out rallying him because he's getting back Kyrgios' serve, or Kyrgios say, I'll refuse to rally, I'm going for it, and hitting with too much power too close to the line and making a whole bunch of errors. But I think it was more Kyrgios' errors. He really dropped off in the second and third. got angry at everybody else, didn't focus on the match. Djokovic just was getting his serves back, and then he was just making errors from there because he couldn't be in a rally with Djokovic anyway. But his game alone, when the returns were coming back, he just made a whole lot of easy errors, missed easy shots, and lost second and third. Third set, they both did well, serve and shots behind the serve, and were holding easily. Then we got to the tiebreaker again. Djokovic gets back a few of Kyrgios' serves, and then Kyrgios says, "I don't want to rally," goes for it, makes the errors, and it's a typical 7-6 in the four sets for Djokovic. And it's a typical Djokovic against a big hitter where he's getting the serves back. They can't be in a rally, so they make a whole bunch of errors, give Djokovic all these 3 points. And when they're not doing that, if they try to go for less, then Djokovic just moves them around and out rally them. But the main thing was Kyrgios relies on his serve. Djokovic is a great returner. He's getting the ball back, and Kyrgios makes a whole bunch of errors. And yeah, typical Djokovic using the return, getting it back, and forcing them into the rallies. They have no hope in the rallies, out rallied or errors. And Djokovic does very well against these guys, this style of play, because they rely on their serve. Djokovic, like I said, the great return. When the return comes back, they're in a rally with Djokovic. They're very bad at rallies. Djokovic is very good. They're inconsistent. They make errors. And then the fact that they don't have hardly anything behind the serve is exposed by the fact that Djokovic is getting back the serve and forcing him into rallies, and they look horrible versus Djokovic in rallies. I really think like the best type of player now to challenge Djokovic would be the guys who will beat him in his last two Grand Slam losses. Medvedev at the US Open last year, Nadal at the French Open. Because when Djokovic gets the return back, what else do you have? That's the question. So Medvedev and Nadal can rally on a very similar level as Djokovic when the ball's coming back. But these big hitters, guys like Kyrgios, when the ball's coming back, they are far behind Djokovic in the rallies, and the ball will come back because of Djokovic's return. So yeah, congratulations to Djokovic. He's the Wimbledon champion. But yeah, I really felt like in a review of the whole tournament quickly. Now I've mentioned the final. Um, what I would just think when it comes to this final, right? Would be like Djokovic, highest ranked player was 10 in the world. So as far as like the lowest quality opposition to win a Grand Slam between all of Federer's 20 Grand Slams, Nadal's 22, Djokovic is 21 now, would be the easiest competition anyone's faced to win a Grand Slam. Um, it would be this Wimbledon 2022 for Djokovic because Yannick Sinner ranked 10 was his higher ranked player. Like, look, Cameron Norrie's never been anywhere near a semi final. Kyrgios has never been anywhere near a final. Um, so, yeah, Djokovic, like, I think the lowest level of competition of any of these guys in all of their Grand Slam one was the 2017 US Open with Nadal, right? Nadal, but he still had to get Del Potro in the semi-finals, and also Kevin Anderson in the final. Well, Anderson ended up being in the top 10 for quite a while, made another Grand Slam final at Wimbledon the following year, beat Federer at Wimbledon, and then Del Potro's beat like at least Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic 2 or 3 times each. Won Grand Slams, been in Grand Slam final, pushed them to 5 sets. So I think when you consider what all Anderson did and all Del Potro did, they did way more than Cameron Norrie or a Sinner or a Kyrgios. So I really think when it comes down to it, the easiest Grand Slam opportunity that Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic has ever had. Tell me in the comments if you think of one. But I just think like these guys, even the fourth round, he played someone 200 in the world. Third round, he played Kamanovic, who was 30 in the world, but a Serbian who reveres Djokovic and was very nervous, right? So yeah, there's one thing like you got it easy, but you can't blame Djokovic for getting it easy or say he wasn't good because you can't control it. How can Djokovic control Nadal's injuries and all of this? And it's true, Djokovic can't. But one thing I was expect is the old Djokovic, what he would do is if you're 10 or below, he would just destroy you in straight sets. If you're between sort of 4 and 10, maybe Djokovic wins in 4 sets, drops one, and then a Federer or a Nadal or maybe Medvedev lately at his best, and Thiem at his peak, like the elite level, and Wawrinka when he was great. These guys could maybe push him to a fifth set where the match could go either way. But you see, as you progress in the tournament, the level gets higher. It goes from 10 and below straight sets to sort of 4 to 10 in the world, 4 sets, and then 5 sets to the very elite, where Djokovic could win, or so could anyone else, right? That's how it progresses. But the problem here is, yes, we can't blame Djokovic that he got it easy because he doesn't control that. But his usual level would be destroying all these guys in straight sets, and then it would only be closer as you move deeper into the tournament and the opposition gets tougher, which would make sense. But this time, Djokovic was already struggling with these guys 10 or below. They were pushing him to 4 or 5 sets. Like in the fourth round, someone 200 in the world got a set, right? The number 10 in the world, Sinner, the hardest he played by ranking, he got him down 2 sets to love. Semi-finals, Norrie's never been anywhere near a semi-final. Again, he's down a set. And even Kyrgios is in the 40s in the rankings, even though he can be quite good. Um, yeah, it was a struggle. Again, I mean, if Kyrgios played a good tiebreaker, we probably went to a fifth. So for me, he's not quite on the normal level. I mean, if he was struggling to play as 10 or below, hypothetically, if you did make him play like those top players, which usually make him battle, I don't think he would have won. I think he's had a bad year. I think he was affected by what happened at the Australian Open. And I think his level of tennis wasn't good enough to beat the elite. The only players that he could beat were probably those 10 and below, where even there he's struggling and just getting by, but he can't afford for the opposition to get any higher. Um, but lucky for him, it never got any higher, so he got the draw. So this wasn't something where Djokovic is killing everyone by straight sets, and if you make it a higher level, he's playing high level himself. So yeah, why can't he win? No, this is where he's already struggling against players 10 or below. So it suggests to me once the level got significantly higher, he wouldn't be able to handle that. The reason he came back so much is because he can just turn it on and be behind whatever. I mean, these guys are not nowhere near a 20 or 21 Grand Slam winner. They're nowhere near even winning one Grand Slam. So of course, even if you're down 2 sets to love, you just need to take it. I've got to beat the guy in straight sets. He's not even 10 in the world, right? So I don't think Djokovic played a good level. I don't think he could have beaten Nadal. I don't think he could have beat a lot of the top players. I think he was only just good enough to beat the players he had to beat. And if it was any harder, he wouldn't have won Wimbledon. But luckily, the players that he was only just good enough to beat, that's all he had to beat, and he didn't have to face anyone. But I'm just saying, I don't think Djokovic was up to his usual level. And I think that he needed an easy draw and lower level competition to win, and he got it. And like he used to destroy these guys. So I just think he could be in decline. It could be just his bad year. He could be better next year. But look at Nadal, right? Talking about players 10 or below. Casper Ruud was 8 or 9 in the world. He got to Nadal in the French Open final. Nadal killed him. Nadal finished that match by winning 11 games in a row. Djokovic used to do that. But now, and Ruud on clay is probably better than a lot of these guys against Djokovic on grass, right? Um, that's sort of how I'm looking at this, right? But yet Nadal killed Rudd on grass, straight sets, completely destroyed. Whereas the same kind of opposition, or even worse, Djokovic is struggling. So I don't think if Djokovic met Nadal, he would have won at all. Because I think, okay, you can say overall, if you look at the record, Djokovic is better on grass than Nadal, better at Wimbledon, right? If anyone says that, that's very, very true. But what I'm saying is, when do you have a chance like Djokovic to beat Nadal on clay, or Nadal to beat Djokovic on one of his good surfaces, right? Like Nadal's best level in clay is better than Djokovic's best. So Djokovic has to beat his best and hope Nadal's a bit off, like last year with Nadal with the injury. That's how you do it. But Djokovic's game was a bit off. He was already struggling against guys outside the top 10. So that opportunity was there if Nadal was playing well. And I saw that he was playing well. Like against Sonigo in the third round, someone similar opposition, he destroyed the guy. Van der Zandschulp in the fourth set, straight sets. Before the injury, he came out amazing against Fritz in the first set. So I mean, I just see Nadal, like, if they're playing, I see Nadal with all the confidence in the world. He's got 2 Grand Slams. Even if he doesn't win this, there's no pressure or no worry with that. He'll win the US Open without Djokovic. There's either 3 or 4 Grand Slams, whatever happens here. He's feeling great. He's just going with it all to gain, nothing to lose. Whereas Djokovic, and this is part of the reason why he didn't play well, he would have had all the weight under his shoulders to say, if I win this, I get 1 Grand Slam. If I lose, I get 0, and all the pressure to at least get 1. It's either bad or terrible year, and it's just all this pressure. Whereas Nadal's like, good or great, I'm just going for more. And Djokovic, I'm like trying to defend something, and I just think like Nadal would have won maybe even in 4 sets, not even 5. That opportunity to beat Djokovic on his surface was there. Oh, this is Nadal's best year and one of Djokovic's worst, and you saw that in how he won. And like for example, how Djokovic started badly and was able to get away with it against these lower ranked players, right? You saw once the competition gets higher than that, you can't afford to do that. Like you saw when he started like that to Nadal at the French Open. Nadal started up 6-2 free love and was destroying him. Djokovic put all his effort, fought back, got it back to 1 set all, but it took so much energy. Nadal just pulled away in the third and fourth set. So you can't afford something like this. But he could against players 10 or below, and that's all he had to face. But anyway, now he's got 21 Grand Slams, Nadal 22, Roger Federer at 20. So I just want to talk about who is the GOAT at this point in time. Of course, this can change, right? First, I want to make the argument about Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic, how that they're the top 3, right? You got to consider 3 guys playing at the same era, right? Like someone like Sampras, Agassi, all these other greats never had such elite competition. And if one of these 3 guys didn't exist, because each of these 3 guys, Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic, lost so many Grand Slam finals to each other. If you take one of the guys out, either Federer, Nadal, or Djokovic, the other 2 get 30. And then if you take both of the other 2 out and you're left with one of the big 3, he has like 35. So the point is these guys are much better than what it seems. And they're only been limited to 20, 21, and 22 because they've all played at the same time. Like Djokovic may be the second best clay court player ever, but he would have won so much. But it's because of Nadal couldn't win that much at the French Open. Same with Federer. He may be the third best on clay ever, but he's lost a lot to Nadal. So he's got 1 French Open, Djokovic 2, because Nadal got 14. I think Nadal might be the third best player on grass and hard court, but he's been in an era where the top 2 on grass and hard court are Federer and Djokovic. So he's lost a lot of big matches to them. He would have won many more too. He's lost many close to both of them. So it has happened for all of them. Like Federer, the best hard court and clay court. So he's lost on hard court, and then even Djokovic really competing with on grass, and Nadal beating him once there too. So they would have had so much more. They've already got the most with 22, 21, and 20 Grand Slams, right? So they've already got the most. But they would have had well more, and they faced it way harder because they all played together and they took Grand Slams for each other, and they really deserve 30 plus, I would say. But you can't, there's not 30 plus to go around when 3 guys are winning, and there's only 4 Grand Slams a year. My next argument is that the top 2 in the GOAT debate is Djokovic and Nadal, right? The reason being, if you look at the statistics, they've all played. Number 1, Federer had an advantage. He played before the other 2 were around. He got up to like 10 Grand Slams without having to beat any of them, 10 of his 20, and just beat people like Roddick and Hewitt. So that's one advantage. Second, even with that, and even with the Djokovic and Nadal had to win all their 20 and 20, sorry, all their 21 and 22 Grand Slams in the big 3 year of Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic all there. So that was harder, and they've won more. So they've won more Grand Slams. It was harder. But then, in addition to all that, like I said, 22 Grand Slams for Nadal, 21 for Djokovic. Federer has um, Federer has 20, so they've got more Grand Slams. On on Masters 1,000, right? Like, which we should take note to that because it's the second most important. Djokovic has 38, Nadal has 36, and Federer has 28. So Nadal's got two more Grand Slams and eight more Masters 1,000 than Roger Federer, right? Um, Djokovic has one more Grand Slam, but nine more Masters 1,000. So when you consider they're 1 to 2 Grand Slams ahead, but many, many Masters 1,000, right? If you look at the head to head, I mean, the head to head also. So the most important tournaments, Grand Slams, Masters 1,000, Djokovic and Nadal are ahead of Federer, right? Um, then in their matches against each other, I think it's something like 27 to 23, Djokovic over Federer in their head to head. I know for sure Djokovic won four more of their matches, right? For Nadal, it's like eight more. It's like 24 wins to 16 in favor of Nadal in head to head. So then when they played each other, Federer's opponents, Djokovic and Nadal, won more of their matches. So that's just when you put two guys on the court, who's better? Djokovic and Nadal beat Federer more than 50% of the time. Then Masters 1,000, second most important. They won like eight. What is it again? Let me just get that up again. Yeah. Like Djokovic has won like nine more, and I mean, sorry, Djokovic has actually won 10 more because he's got 38 to 28. Nadal, eight more. And then Grand Slams is two more for Nadal, one for Djokovic. Head to head, Djokovic won four more of their matches. Nadal won eight more of their matches against Federer. So, in all, I think the three most important, right, categories that we have are one, Grand Slams, because they're the most important, two Masters 1,000, three head to head when you put the two greats on the court against each other. And on all three of those categories, Djokovic, Grand Slams, Masters 1,000, and their head to head matchup, Djokovic and Nadal are ahead of Federer in all three Grand Slams, Masters 1,000, and their head to head matches against Federer. So I just think there's nothing Federer really has to go off because if you've not won the most Grand Slams, you can't say I've won the second most important Masters 1,000. And then when you played these guys, you can't say you won the majority of the time. They won the majority against you. So whether it be big tournaments or when you played each other, Djokovic and Nadal has proved that they're above Federer now. So now we're down to two, right? Djokovic and Nadal. So let's see who's the GOAT between these two. I think it's clear that they're the top two in the history of the game. So when you see Nadal and Djokovic, just know you're watching the best two players ever, right? So let's look at Djokovic and Nadal, right? The most important thing, Grand Slams, 22 to 21. Both close, but it's Nadal because he's won more Grand Slams, right? Um, when it comes to total tournaments won, right? Total tournaments won. So, like some say, well, Djokovic spent more time at the number one ranking. So Nadal's just better in Grand Slams. He's better at everything else, right? Um, so here we are. Nadal has won 92 tournaments and Djokovic has won 88 tournaments. So four more tournaments. So again, it's close, like the Grand Slams. They play more of those other tournaments. So four of those are probably like one Grand Slam. But whether you focus on the most important list of tournaments, Grand Slams, it's Nadal, 22 to 21. If you focus on all tournaments, it's 92 to 88 to Nadal. So that's what tennis is about, winning. Um, if you want to talk about time at the number one ranking, the advantages Djokovic has had there, obviously, if you just count the points when you won the tournaments, Nadal's got more points because he's won more tournaments. He's won four more tournaments and one more Grand Slam. But tennis doesn't work that way. It gives points when you don't win tournaments. So you would have to say Djokovic, if you believe he's GOAT, Djokovic deserves to be GOAT because of points he collected when he didn't win. We're talking about not just the best in a tournament or an era, the best in the all time of tennis. Such a huge statement. How can you include any time when someone else was better than you? They're better than you. You're not the best even in that week. How can you use that to credit the best of all time? You need to win the tournament and say, no one could beat me in this particular tournament. So maybe now you can say, well, maybe if every player in history could play, I'd beat everybody because I'm the best ever. But if someone beats you there, you're not even the best then. So you can't credit that because you're number two or three there. So you're definitely, if you're not even number one there, you can't be number one. The GOAT is about winners, not losers, not consistently making semi-finals or finals. You know, then you're okay. You're consistently the second, third, or fourth if you're doing that, but you're not the best of all time. So you can't count that. You've got to say, I've beat everybody. Who else is there to beat? Now compare me to the best players of all time because I've won that. And when it comes to winning, like I said, Nadal's won four more tournaments um, and one more Grand Slam. That's just what it is. And anyone who thinks it's about rankings, they're including points because, like, look how the ranking system works. If you make four Grand Slam finals and don't win any Grand Slams, you get 1,200 times four, right? So that's like 4,800. If you win two Grand Slams, that's 4,000. But you just say you injured the other two. The guy who won two Grand Slams will get 4,000. The guy, the other guy who made the four finals will get more points, 800 more. So even one Grand Slam, 2,000, four finals, 4,800. But the guy didn't win any Grand Slams, but the point says he's better. That's my point. Djokovic has got more points because he's been in more Grand Slam finals. Yeah, he's been in more Grand Slam finals. I just want to think, yeah. So yeah, I believe based on memory that Djokovic has 32 Grand Slam finals, right? 31 for Federer and 30 for Nadal. So again, he's been in more finals than Nadal, 32 to 30, right? But he's won one less Grand Slam. So who would have more points from Grand Slams? Djokovic has been in more quarterfinals, more semi-finals, more finals. Nadal's only won one more. So who would have more points from Grand Slams? Djokovic, which you get points from the finals, quite a lot, and semi-finals and more quarterfinals, right? But when it comes to wins, if you just counted the points from winning it, Nadal would have more points. So that's my point. Djokovic has accumulated more rankings points from being there in tournaments where he made quarterfinals, semifinals, and finals. But someone has beat you then. So you're not even the best in that tournament for that particular tournament. So you can't say, oh, someone was better than me in this tournament. But that tournament shows that I'm the best ever. No, you're not even the best in that tournament. So we've got to stick to winners here, right? That's why the ranking system, it's not going to show you the best of all time because Djokovic has more points, Nadal's won more tournaments, Nadal's won more Grand Slams. But it's a time where you can say, I was the best in that tournament. I can't be beat. So maybe no one could ever beat me. So maybe no one could ever beat me. Do you understand what I'm saying? Um, so we've got to focus on winners. It's about finding the top in the whole history of the game. And it's not about times when someone else beat you. It's about when nobody could beat you. So maybe that shows I'm the best of all time, right? So that's how I see it. And I see it quite simple. One more Grand Slam from Nadal, four more total tournaments. So Nadal's not just the best in Grand Slams, he's the best in all tournaments. So if you just forget about the category of tournaments, how much you've won, it's him. If you just focus on Grand Slams, it's also him. So the GOAT debate is about winners. It's not about losers. It's not about when people are better than you. It's about where you're at the top of your game. And now you can say, no one can beat me here. So maybe I can make a claim for the best ever. Djokovic has more points in Grand Slams. But yeah, Nadal, whether it be all tournaments or just Grand Slams, Nadal's won more tournaments and more Grand Slams. So whichever way you just want to focus on Grand Slams, 22 to 21. You want to focus on all tournaments, 92 to 88 to Nadal, right? So I think it's clear as of this point, Nadal is the GOAT. But like I said, it's only 4 tournaments different in total tournaments. It's only one in Grand Slams. So it's all up for grabs. They're going to keep battling. They're going to keep fighting for this. Djokovic could, I'm not saying that Djokovic can't be the GOAT, right? But the one thing that I'll say when I look at the history of all of this thing is, right? Federer obviously had it easy because he won half of his Grand Slams before Nadal and Djokovic was around. Well, Djokovic peaked when Federer hit 30. So he had a situation where one of his main opponents, Nadal, is injured. Half the time he's missing. Most half the time, then he only has to beat a 30-year-old Federer. Of course, if he's in his mid 20s or some part of his 20s and Federer's later in his 30s, he's going to win. Every time Nadal went out, he just had Federer to deal with and an older Federer in his 30s. So he was able to cash in and get a lot of Grand Slams then too, right? Um, then Federer retired, or Federer's barely been there for years. So now every time Nadal's injured, it's just Djokovic against the next generation. That happens a lot. Most of last year it happened. It happened this time at Wimbledon. Like it happens a lot where Djokovic doesn't get Nadal. It's just him and the next generation. And before that, it was him and an old Federer. And that's like half of the time he's getting that. 2015, 2016, the current guys like Medvedev, I mean, there was no one else there. Um, there was no one else there because Nadal played a terrible 2015, couldn't even get past the first few rounds of tournaments. 2016, he was injured. Federer was well in his 30s by this stage, like mid 30s. And Djokovic was untouchable. He just got to win everything. So that's another good time. 2021, Federer's not there anymore. Nadal's injured most of the year. He just gets to win everything against the next generation. So 2015, 2016, 2021, Djokovic could just say, like, it's just me against all these younger guys who are nowhere near champions, and I can just win everything and just rack up Grand Slams, kind of in the way that Federer had before Djokovic and Nadal were there. But Nadal, he's always had it tough. He started out, he's like 19, 20. Federer's at his peak, 24, 25. So he played before his peak when Federer was in his peak. Then by the time he fought all the way up to get to his peak at 25, Djokovic was now 24. He was 26. Djokovic was 25. So now he's going to take on Djokovic's peak. And he's never had a time where like both of them were injured and it's just him. Maybe like the Australian Open with the vaccine, but that's right in Medvedev's peak. So it wasn't easy, right? So what I want to say about this is Nadal's always had through all of Federer's peak, waiting that out, then for all of Djokovic's peak. Both of these guys hardly ever got injured, and he always had one of them or both of them at their peak their whole career. They were never injured. He never got anything easy, and it was just a constant fighting through Federer's peak, fighting through Djokovic's peak, never having it easy. And then in addition to that, he's injured, so he's losing half of his opportunities on top of that. But yet somehow with him never having that easy time where he can rack up Grand Slams, always having either Federer and Djokovic or both their peaks and having to try to battle against that. Try to not have the chance to play 4 Grand Slams a year um, and just miss half your opportunities and get way less chances to win slams than Djokovic and Federer. Somehow he's faced all those obstacles. He's faced tougher opposition. He's never had any weak or easy time. He's had to fight through Federer and Djokovic's peak, and he's had to have injuries. And he never ever gets even one time where he can just say basically Djokovic and Federer, even one time, one of them are not going to be there, and he'll just get it easy. It's hardly ever happened because they're never injured, they're always there, but he's sometimes not there. So when that happens, they get the easy chance. Do you get what I'm saying? But between having to never get it easy, fight through Federer Djokovic's peak, and then his own injuries, not getting a chance to play 4 Grand Slams a year, 2 or 3 on average at most, for him to be the most Grand Slams and even more tournaments won, for me, that's something much harder to do. And like the media, you see, they act like Djokovic is a champion and he's great. And look what he did. He beat players outside the top 10 and struggled to beat them. That's not impressive to me. What Nadal did, being 4 top 10 players, where you can't even train and you're playing with anesthetic, That's something to be special, to look at it being special, right? Even the one time he didn't get Djokovic or Federer, look, he had Medvedev at his peak. So I really think, and then another advantage is Federer and Djokovic prefer to play on grass and hard courts. They get a surface that suits their game 3 times a year. Nadal gets what surface that suits his game once. So when you talk about injuries, the surface advantage for Federer and Djokovic, the fact that he's had to be there for his peak, yet he still stands with the most Grand Slams. He still stands with more total tournaments won than Djokovic, right? And then last thing I'll say, head to head, Federer versus Djokovic, right? Sorry, Nadal versus Djokovic. It's 30-29 in favor of Djokovic, right? But in Grand Slams, I think it's around 11 or 12-7 in favor of Nadal. So I think winning 4 or 5 more best of 5 set matches in Grand Slams where it matters most is worth more than one best of 3 set match. But at least they sort of cancel each other out. And then we go back to Nadal winning 4 more tournaments and 1 more Grand Slam. So I think and then I think right now Nadal is GOAT. I also think Djokovic has won a lot of Grand Slams recently where he got it easy. He won Wimbledon 2022 without any top 10 players. Last year, I mean, the last year he got to play like Australian Open 2021, while Karatsev and Medvedev played a horrible final. I mean, he's down 2 sets to love against Tsitsipas, some of these other guys. Gets Nadal injured at the French Open. Wimbledon, he only faced one top 10 player, Berrettini. Wimbledon this year, no top 10 players. I mean, for me, he's not really been at that elite Djokovic level since sort of 2018, where he beat Nadal 10-8 in the fifth at Wimbledon, or 2019 Australian Open, where he destroyed Nadal in straight sets. Even the 2020 Australian Open, which he won that, I mean, I just felt like he was down 2 sets to 1 against Thiem, and Thiem collapsed and gave it away. Maybe the last time he really won a great match at a higher level was 2019 Wimbledon. That was 6-all in the fifth set against Federer in a tiebreak, right? But like I'm saying, he just won. Federer was almost 40 at the time. Like, let's just see. I think he was around 39 years old, and Djokovic was around 33. The fact that like it's just coming down to a few points, and Federer wins more points in the total match. So yes, it was better than now because it's tough opposition, but I just don't think he's a 2011 through to the 2016 Djokovic for a while, and he's got a lot of easy opportunities. But part of it is, like I said, it's either been since Djokovic is good, Federer in his 30s and Nadal being injured. So when Nadal goes out, it's Federer in his 30s, or no Federer at all and no Nadal when Nadal's injured. So there's been a lot of these opportunities. And he's been able to play, yes, this good, consistent tennis, and the next generation just aren't good enough. And Nadal's injured, and Federer's either too old and not there, and that's good enough to do it. And again, the same thing at Wimbledon this year. But I just think Nadal's been able to win facing elite opposition the whole way through. Djokovic and Federer's peak, never getting it easy, never having a time where those guys are injured, and it's just a tough battle, a tough fight. High level opposition all the time. Every time you win, you earned it. And then you don't even have the chance to play all Grand Slams. And you only get a Grand Slam on your best surface once a year. The other guys have it 3 times a year. So all these advantages, but in the end, he stays ahead of Federer in head-to-head, Masters 1000, Grand Slams. He stays ahead on Djokovic on Grand Slams and on the total tournaments won by 4. So I think right now, Rafael Nadal is your GOAT, and I've narrowed it down to Nadal and Djokovic. I think it just comes down to head-to-head. We don't get anything because it's one match deciding it, but Nadal's won 4 or 5 more in Grand Slams. And it just comes down to that one extra Grand Slam and those 4 more tournaments because tennis is about winners. The GOAT needs to win more, and he's won more than Djokovic by every metric. So I'm just saying it's close, but Nadal is still the GOAT as of today. And I think Djokovic is second and Federer is third. So that's my video for today. subscribe, bell notification, thumbs up. Have a great day or night wherever you are in the world, and come back for my next video. You know, I might not be making videos for the next 2 to 3 weeks, but I'll try to find something to talk about. But like my next tournaments I want to cover are um, the Montreal Masters 1000. I think it starts around the 8th of August. Then the Cincinnati one, and then I'll be covering the US Open and the Asian Tour if they go, the European Indoors, the top eight. So much coming up, but we're going on a bit of a break for the next few weeks. But then we're coming back. We're hitting this thing hard with a Montreal followed by Cincinnati Masters 1000 2 weeks in a row, then a week off, and then another 2 weeks in the last Grand Slam of the year, the US Open in New York. So much is going to be coming up. And that's my video for today. And that's my outlook on Djokovic winning the GOAT debate, where we stand. So please subscribe, bell notification, thumbs up. We're really building up to this North American hardcourt season. So much coming up. I'll go through the GOAT debate again after the US Open, depending on if it's Nadal or Djokovic can add a Grand Slam and that's affected. But yeah, like I'm really going to be covering this North American hardcourt season and the whole rest of the year. So please join me. I'm trying to get even interviews with players, but no promises there, no names. But yeah, for all this, please subscribe, bell notification, thumbs up, but most importantly, guys, please subscribe. So thanks for being with me and thanks for watching. And I hope you subscribe. And bye for now.